Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? Get your breakthrough now at thehealthyaccountants.com. Click there. Download the book, read the book, get some insights, answer the questions, unlock your financial potential. All right, let's jump into this. What is commitment? The power of commitment today. We're going to look at the Word of God. We're going to look at probably a very famous story about someone who was really committed to something, and we're going to discuss that. But before we get to that, we just want to jump into this whole deal about commitment. We're at the stage of the year, guys, or we're almost to the point in a year where people make all sorts of commitments. Come on now, can I get a witness? Where January comes and you say, you know what? The past is the past, man. Let's move forward, man. We're gonna take this year by storm. It's January, man. We're gonna lose weight. We're gonna start the business, man. We're gonna have success. We're going for it. And by the end of January, there's a lot of statistics on this. Most people have already given up on their commitment. Now, today we're talking about the power of commitment. So you might know what commitment is. Today we're going to jump in what power does when someone is committed. When someone is committed. Let's look at what is commitment. So I went and asked Google, what is the true meaning of commitment? It says it's an agreement or a pledge to do something in the future. I read a book some years ago, and this is one of the first really mental personal development. Well, I won't say it like that, but it was a good personal development book called The Power of Now, written by Eckhart Tolle. Look that up. The Power of Now. I read this book, and I remember my son Jared, he was in middle school, I think. He was either, he might have been was he in middle school? He might have been either 5th or 6th grade, one of them. And I remember he had this little thing where they went to do something. It was a science fair or something they were doing. It was on a Saturday, and we went. And the whole time I was there, I had my earpods in, and I'm listening to The Power of Now. Listen to The Power of Now. Why am I telling you this story, talking about this book? Because if I had to tell you one thing about this book, here's what I would tell you. It's not about being committed to the future. It's about tapping into the power of right now. The power of right now. See, the power of right now means there's stuff that I put off. Be honest. Guys, we all in this together. I just so happen to come on here and just and talk about stuff. So there's things that I have not done in the now when I should have. There are things that I have done in the now, and when I do those things in the now, I don't know. It's almost like something happens. You all of a sudden get a newfound ability. See, what is power? I've been talking about this for the past year. Power is your ability. So if power is ability, then how do I get power? We get power from doing things right now. We don't get power just because we made the commitment. See, the commitment is going to require some stuff that maybe we didn't foresee. That's why people quit. People quit, January the 15th or January the 21st or January 20th, just before they got to the 21st day, and something happened. wherein even if I made a misstep, I made plenty of missteps, and when I look at my health journey and I look at all the things that I've I've had to fight against. You're always working, so that the old person doesn't come back. And I think about that. It's just like, man, that old person like is gone, but the old person is there. So we're talking about the power of commitment. And we just realized that well, you already knew it. Commitment is making a pledge for the future, right? I made a pledge when I got married. Really not in the future. It was right now. It was like, but really what a lot of, like when you do the marriage vows, it's, basically to death do you part. That's pretty much where we are with it. But most people don't. 50% of people, there's no death do us part. It's not working. Let's get it over with. Not saying that a person couldn't have divorce. You could have a divorce. Like there's reasons why people should get divorces, because maybe, hey, sometimes we just didn't think enough before we made these decisions. Power is the ability. Commitment is to see the future, but then using the now is what we use so that we can actually do the thing. So also I looked at another way. I looked at dedication, because I know commitment and dedication are almost hand in hand. But what was different about dedication was it's like I'm dedicated to my wife, right? I'm not just committed. I'm dedicated. Like you have strong support, a loyalty to somebody, something. That's dedication. But commitment is like seeing the future. Dedication, you don't have to see the future. It's just like, hey, love you for who you are. That's what I'm going to love. I'm in support of you now. Let's go. So when we think about this power that we get from actually saying, because it starts with the saying, from saying that we're going to commit to something. I'm going to tell you, sometimes it brings on some hard times. Like in business, I said that I wanted to have a successful business. And then what happens is success shows up and says, well, in order to be successful, you're going to have to do these things. I'm going to tell you, be very honest here. I'm an in my head kind of person. If you know, I'm an in my head kind of person. And what I mean is, it's funny. I was talking to one of my business partners yesterday, and what we were talking about business, and what I said, it's crazy, because I thought that the way that I think about things, I thought that many people think the same way, when many people don't. Like sometimes I could be, I don't know, hard to understand. And I says, man, I got to get more simple. I've got to literally get so simple that when I explain things, it comes across a lot simpler. I could probably make a podcast in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, but get even simpler than what I am. And I used to think, well, shouldn't everybody have this particular ability to think a certain way and to do the same stuff, or do it a certain way, not have to think too much about it? But because I think so much, I'm always thinking, and everybody may not always do that. So I learned that. I was just like, wow, that's interesting. So we're all different, and how we use our abilities are going to be different. Commitments are going to be different. Back in 2020, was it 2020? It was either 2020. Yeah, it was 2021. My friend Jamie said that he was going to write a book. He said, Jamie, I'm going to write this book. I said, you are? I said, so when you going to write it, and when you going to publish it? Man, I got to figure out the time. I said, all right, let's meet every week. I immediately, because he's my friend and I care about his goal, I said, well, let's meet. I said, well, we could just meet every Sunday, and that'll be just a check-in where we're just checking in with each other, not just him checking in with me, but I'm checking in with him on stuff that I'm doing, and we're just having a check-in. But if you said you're going to write the book, I'm just going to ask, hey, I'm going to ask every week, how's it going? And that was a way. Literally from June, I think it was like June of 2021. His book was published the next year. The next June, actually I think it was either April or May of the next year, his book is published. And he was just like, yo, man, I'm telling you, like, that really helped. That accountability. Yeah, he had the ability, he had the power, and he had the power to commit. A lot of times we need accountability partners. You know, accountability is one of these things where it's kind of like the word discipline. Most people, when they hear accountability, when they hear discipline, they get a little nervous. Like, accountability means you got to answer to somebody. Discipline means there might be pain involved. Yeah, it might be pain involved. Why is there going to be pain involved? Discipline is not actually pain. You know, I looked at the word discipline, and what did I find in discipline? I found disciple. Have you looked at discipline? It's disciple in discipling. Discipling. Did you catch it? Discipling. That's the word discipline. Discipling. So what is a disciple? A disciple is, I mean, technically, I'm making myself a disciple, someone who's dedicated, someone who's about a mission, someone who's a leader, right? Someone who's willing to go forward. Like, disciples do hard things. They do things because they know that something is pulling them. Like, when you think about the word disciple, we get this word because Jesus had 12 disciples. He had 12 disciples, and those 12 disciples learned something from him. What did they learn from him? They learned leadership. Jesus had a leadership development program that they were in, and they were disciples of him. So they learned his leadership style. They learned how he disciplined himself. They even got power. They got the same power that he possessed. How did they get it? Because they was around him. They took on his mindset. They took on his understanding. They accepted the same things that he accepted. And because they did that, their commitment was powered by the now. Their commitment was powered by the now. Well, they wasn't always like that, though, right? You know the story. They weren't always like that. They weren't always like that. And because they weren't always like it, they had to actually develop. And so I was reading a story in the Bible, very well-known story, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. I'm doing a sidebar here. I have a mentor that normally his introduction is longer than when he actually speaks, which I guess I kind of have to say my introduction is a lot longer than the actual talk that I'm going to give on Ruth. So Ruth, in chapter 1, just give you some backdrop of what's going on in Ruth and what we immediately get called into, which they only give you cliff notes. Like, chapter 1, they don't really tell you much. All they tell you is that Ruth was married to a son of Naomi. And what's the other? I can't remember the other girl's name. So it's Ruth and another girl in the story. They were married to Naomi's sons. And those are Naomi's only 2 sons. And so somehow, some way, both of those sons got killed. They died. And so Ruth and the other girl, Orpah, Ruth and Orpah, because they didn't have any husband, they weren't obligated to be with their mother-in-law. And so they were all going to go back to Moab. Yeah, I think Moab. They were all going to go back to Moab, where Ruth and Orpah was from, and Naomi, their mother-in-law, was going to come with them. And while they were on the road, Naomi was like, you know what? I ain't going. I'm staying here. I'm staying where I'm from. Y'all can go, because y'all can go back and find a husband to take care of you. I have no more sons. And back in those days, to have a son was to have a provider. So the son provided for the mother. The son provided for, their wives. And so they got to the point where Naomi was like, I'm not going with y'all. Y'all go, because you'll be able to make a better life. And so they're crying. They're like, oh no, we don't want to leave you. We love you so much. Because they were like her mother. They were like their mother. And it's like, I want to go. And it was like, and so finally Orpah was like, okay, I'm gonna go. But Ruth is like, wait, hold on. And this is where we pick up the story, which we're not going to go through the whole story. We're just going to pick up the commitment, because that's what we're talking about. We're going to pick up the commitment that Ruth had for Naomi. And so Ruth says, but Ruth answered, don't ask me to leave you. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and that is where I will be buried. May the Lord's worst punishment come upon me if I let anything but death separate me from you. That's Ruth chapter 1, 16 and 17. That's coming from the Good News Translation. And I read the whole story. I read the whole chapter of Ruth, but came back to this because it was about commitment. Now, there was much blessing that happened to Naomi and to Ruth as Ruth made this bold commitment. See, remember remember commitment is actually just saying, commitment is, making a pledge to do something in the future. Well, she didn't make a pledge to do something in the future. What she did was she made a pledge to commit right now. She says, I'm going to commit right now. And she says, basically, wherever you go, that's where I'm going, future. Wherever you live, that's where I'm going to live, future. Wherever you die, that's where I'm going to die, future. So she was making a commitment to her future with Naomi. And she just made up in her mind that it was better to be committed to Naomi than to go back anywhere else. She says, I'm not worried, or I'm not even thinking about whether or not I'm going to have a husband right now, because I'm more committed to what is going to happen to my mother-in-law than anybody else. This is the power of commitment. See, this power of commitment, she was so powerful in her commitment that she didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't know all the blessings that was coming. She didn't know all the things that would pretty much make her like really see how powerful her decision was. She didn't know any of that. She just knew that, you know what, I'm better off. She says, I'm better off with Naomi. I'm better off making this commitment so that Naomi could live a better life. She was not thinking about her life. See, sometimes we have to realize that when we make commitments, it's not just about, what we get. It's not just about how we got to live and how we can be successful. It's about the people around us. It's about, our mothers, our fathers, our kids, our sisters, our brothers, our friends, our clients, our acquaintances, people who don't know you that need to know you. It's about making a commitment to something that we can't see. And what is it? What is it that you can see in your future that you should be committed to? That's the question of the day. What do you see in your future that you should be committed to? See, what I learned about vision some years ago is that when vision is strong enough, vision pulls you. You don't actually, you're not striving for it. You just wake up one day and realize that you're moving towards this vision. It takes a commitment. It takes realizing that I have power. And the power that I have is the power of right now. The power of now to be able to live the best life, meaning make the right decisions, to commit to my goals, to have a dream, to stay committed, to stay committed to whatever it is I said I was going to do long after the feeling that I had passes away. Because that feeling comes. And then one day the feeling's not there, but we got to actually press past that feeling. So when we're thinking about commitment today, and you're thinking about this innate power that you have within you, I want you to think about your vision. I want you to think about something in the future, something that is so big that you probably can't do it. See, because if you can do it, then it's not a vision. If you can do it, it may be a goal. Like goals, you can do. Visions, you can't do. Something has to happen that's supernatural for visions to come true. If you have a big vision today, I want you to make sure that you have that written down somewhere. I want you to make sure that you can internalize that vision. But then I want you to step into the now and realize that I must use my power that I have right now to start moving towards the vision. See, in the beginning, the vision may not be because it's so far out there. You've got to get connected to the vision. That vision has to start. There has to be some emotional pull that gets us to the place where it's like, okay, I got it. I'm with it. Yeah, that emotion that we need. And then lastly, there has to be some logical things that we can do. Logical, all the systems, system is, hey, you get up at a certain time, you go to the gym at a certain time, you do your exercise routine, you do certain activities on a daily basis, because those activities are actually going to build up over time with the success that you're going to have. So do that as we're closing out this year. Think about this power that you have. Think about the commitment that you're making to yourself, but think further and think about your vision, the vision of something in the world, something that has to happen through you, but you're saying to yourself, man, that's kind of big. Good, it's big enough. Make sure it's big. Maybe you get afraid. So that's the power of commitment today, guys. This is Jay Money, Healthy Accountant. Make sure you go to thehealthyaccountants.com and get the book, man. Get the free ebook. Get your breakthrough now. If you like listening, there's a way for you to listen to the book as well. So go there, thehealthyaccountants.com, and I will see you back here on the next episode. God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.